All right, we are back. The fighter and the writer on the road again. He's Sergio Mora. I'm Chris Mannix. He's the fighter. I'm the writer. And Sergio, we've got a lot to get into on the show. I'm glad to see you've fully recovered, by the way, from your New York excursion.
Recovered? I'm always replenished. I mean, this is my job. I'm ready to go. You're the one that looks tired and exhausted. I'm good, man.
I'm
Let's
always
go.
tired. I work for a living. You go home and you just wait for these trips.
Yeah, but I train in the middle of that waiting. All right, you need to lift some weights or something.
Okay,
Fashion designer as well.
Thank you for all that. All right, we got a lot to get into on this show. We're going to talk about the big fights that are coming up this weekend. We got Manny Pacquiao making his return to the ring. Bam Rodriguez, he's in the ring. But there's some news in the world of boxing.
You haven't seen Chris Eubank anywhere, have you?
This is Chris
Eubank, are you out there? No, don't find him.
All right, so this is the news we're going to get into right off the top. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr. The rematch was ordered, or at least mandated, by Turk Al-Sheikh at one point.
Contracted. I mean, when we took the fight, one of the attractive parts of it was a two-fight deal. We knew that stepping up 2 divisions was going to be tough. Conor had been very inactive. We fancied our chances with 2 bites of the cherry. Obviously, the first fight was a war. We've been working with Chris Eubank's team to secure the 20th or the 27th of September. We secured the 20th of September. Now, apparently, Chris Eubank won't be ready. So, very disappointing. But Turk Al-Sheikh kind of said, right, off you go, Mr. Eubank. We move on. And we move on with a multitude of opportunities for Conor Benn. You know, every fighter anywhere near 147 seems to be calling his name. And we'll see what happens over the coming days.
Including a fighter named Shakur Stevenson. What'd you think of that back and forth this week?
A great back and forth. 2 guys that gel very well. And I think 2 guys that would gel very well in the ring. I mean, I think Conor would even admit, you know, skill and IQ-wise, who matches Shakur Stevenson. The only way he's going to get beat, or the only way it might be competitive, is moving up to a weight class where he has physical disadvantages. And he would have a physical disadvantage against Conor Benn, who's, you know, obviously a big welterweight. It's like Benn moving up 2 divisions to fight Eubank. Pound for pound, you may be the better fighter, but up there, it's a different kettle of fish. So I quite like it. I'm not sure it'll happen next, but every man and his dog calling out Conor Benn.
So percentage chance that we get Eubank Jr. Benn 2 in 2025?
10% at the moment.
Wow.
Could change, but right now, you know, I mean, Conor's obviously, we've been told this fight's happening, even by his team. So we're ready. Conor was ready to get on a plane tomorrow. It's 10 weeks tomorrow to start his camp. So he's not very happy, and His Excellency said, stop wasting my time. Let's move on. Things can change on a sixpence in this sport. We'll see what happens.
Sergio, is Ben ducking this, or is Eubank ducking?
No, I don't think he's ducking. I just think he can't make the weight. Conor Benn is a natural 147-pounder. I think there's limits to that size. And Eubank has fought up to a super middleweight. He's accustomed to fighting bigger fighters. And I think that size actually, you know, was the difference in that last fight with Ben. I mean, it was a war, but the size was the difference. The jab was the difference.
I think as well, when you get to the age of Eubank, people keep saying about the weight, it's the same weight that he's boxed at his last 6 fights, right? I know he's boxed at 68 as well. But when you get to that age of Eubank and you've made a lot of money and you've had a war, don't forget he was in hospital for 4 days after that fight, right? The family were there, you know, and it was like, he wasn't in a terrible place, but it was a taxing fight. To be told you have to go straight back into camp and do it all over again. And you know what the fight's going to be again, another war. So, I mean, maybe there's a part of him that says, I don't know, like he's in Vegas at the moment, he's playing the World Series of Poker. You know, do you still want that in your life right now? Like Conor does. He's dying to get back in the ring with him. But listen, we'll see what happens.
All right, before we let you off the stage, when Turk Al-Sheikh speaks, it's worth noting, and he spoke this week about Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua. He says that Jake Paul has agreed to the fight as AJ's representative. Do you agree to the fight, Eddie Hearn?
I think it's like we just get told what to do by Turk Al-Sheikh. I've seen Nikita come out and say, no one decides who Jake Paul fights apart from Jake Paul. And that's the same with Anthony Joshua, but we're very happy for His Excellency to lead those conversations because he's the kind of guy that can make a fight like that happen for a lot of money. We never anticipated fighting Jake Paul. We never targeted Jake Paul, but AJ will have some kind of, I'd say, warm-up fight before he fights Tyson Fury, hopefully. If that warm-up fight is Jake Paul, what can I say? Sign us up. I mean, we will do the whole of the boxing community a wonderful service
Yes, he will.
by finishing this for once and for good. And if Jake Paul is crazy enough to do it for the tens and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars that he will make out of it, why not?
All right, Eddie, we appreciate you coming up, and we'll let you know if we find Chris Eubank
boys.
Jr.
Yeah, I'm looking out for it.
We'll keep you posted. All right. Well, Sergio, that is one way to get updates on what's going on in the world of boxing, bringing the man in that is at the intersection of all of it. So let's get into the show. Winners and losers of the week, as we do every single week. And Sergio, we'll start with you. Give me your big winner of this past week.
Hamza Shiraz. I mean, what he did on the big stage, knocking out Edgar Berlanga the way he did, something that Canelo Alvarez didn't do in 12 rounds, incredible. I mean, we know he has the backing, he has the look, one of the biggest middleweights I've ever seen in boxing, and he moved up to super middleweight to knock out a natural super middleweight puncher in Berlanga, and the way that he did it in his hometown, that is my winner of the week.
Yeah, my winner is from the same card. I'm going with Shakur Stevenson, who put forth the defining performance of his career against William Zepeda, faced with a guy that threw 100 punches around, faced with a guy that had the best offensive arsenal in all of boxing. Shakur put together a masterpiece. I know there were some people out there that thought the fight was close. I'm
one of them.
next to one of them. I hope you went back and rewatched it and saw that it wasn't. Shakur Stevenson won that fight cleanly, definitively. He is now a bona fide star at 135 pounds, and I hope that win leads to some big fights in the future. On the flip side, give me your loser of the week.
John McKay.
Now tell people who John McKay is.
The referee of the David Morrell fight, where I think Kutayev didn't get the credit.
The judge.
I'm sorry, the judge.
Yes.
He did not give credit to Kutayev in that fight. I think it was a 7-3 type fight, including the point deduction, or the knockdown, excuse me. I just think it was horrible, horrible judging. Kutayev should have won that fight in a close, maybe at worst a draw, but Kutayev deserved way better than the 96-93 scorecard that John McKay turned in.
Yeah, I don't know how you watch that fight and give 7 rounds to David Morrell.
Ridiculous.
That was crazy. It was a competitive fight, no doubt about it, but 7-3 for Morrell, 96-93 the final score with the knockdown. That was crazy. My loser of the week, and it pains me to say it because I'm a big fan, but my loser of the week is Amanda Serrano. Because even though it was a phenomenal night for Serrano for women's boxing, I thought her game plan was just crazy in that fight against Katie Taylor. She went into a fight against Katie Taylor and tried to outbox a woman who has proven to be a superior boxer. She fought more from the outside. She didn't engage. She didn't take the fight to Katie Taylor. Now, maybe she wouldn't have won had she fought the way that she fought the first 2 times. She hadn't won yet. But those 2 fights, Sergio, were so close. In both of them, she hurt Katie Taylor. You can certainly make a case that if they did it again, she could have knocked out Katie Taylor. In fact, most of the people that sat down to watch that fight around me on press row, their top prediction was Amanda Serrano by stoppage. Your prediction was Amanda Serrano by stoppage. Then she goes out and fights this kind of gimmicky game plan against Katie Taylor. I didn't agree with it. I thought that is something that will haunt Amanda in the years to come, because that was a fight I think she had a great chance to win.
I don't think it'll haunt her because that was still one of the most lucrative fights, and they made
no doubt.
a lot of money and they didn't get hurt. So in the long run, that was a smart decision. But for everyone that left that arena, including ourselves, with the sour taste in our mouth after watching the first fight and the second fight, just bloody wars, exciting, everything that you could think of from women's boxing in the Mecca to getting that last fight, it was a disappointment to say the least.
All right, before we get into the fights for this weekend, which are some great fights. This is one of the best fight weekends I can remember. I want to talk a little bit about what we just asked Eddie Hearn, and that is the Chris Eubank Jr. seeming decision to walk away, at least for now, from a rematch against Conor Benn. This was a phenomenal fight back in April, one of the best fights of the year, an electric event at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we all kind of assumed that a rematch was going to happen. From what I'm told, the primary reason that Chris Eubank Jr. is not interested in the rematch right now is that he doesn't want to go back down to 160. Now, granted, he has been fighting at 160 for a few years now, but before that, he was a 168. He's in his mid-30s. I don't think he loves the 10-pound rehydration clause that's attached to that contract either. Do you think that Chris Eubank Jr. is making the right decision not facing Conor Benn at 160.
He's making the right decision because I've been there before. Whenever you're already in your mid-30s and your late 30s, he's 37 years old, it's hard to lose that weight. And then when you do dehydrate and lose that weight, you don't have those youthful legs. You can't lose that extra pound or two like you had when you're in your 20s or early 30s. So it's a smart decision by a very smart fighter in Chris Eubank Jr., whose career has been profitable. He hasn't been in brutal fights. He hasn't been knocked out. And he's made a lot of money. He's made a lot of money. He comes from legacy. So he continues making all the right decisions because of that brain that he has. And I think this is just another business decision that's benefiting him, because going down in that weight is only going to give Ben all the advantages. And you don't want to give that young, hungry lion any more advantages coming off that first
and
fight.
especially with the quick turnaround between fight times. I mean, April and September may feel like a long time, but you know this as a champion, as a fighter, that it's really not. Like, you get a month, 2 months off, and you're right back into an 8-10 week training camp to get ready for that fight. I don't think Chris Eubank Jr. was all interested in the timeline of it all. I also think Eubank sees some equally lucrative options out there. I mean, maybe Chris Eubank can now turn to Hamza Shiraz.
There you go.
Like a Eubank-Hamza Shiraz fight in the UK or in Saudi Arabia, that's a big event. And if Eubank can knock off Hamza, then all of a sudden Chris Eubank Jr. is looking around going, I'm kind of the best option for Canelo Alvarez in 2026. Canelo has made some noise about fighting in the UK. You know, if that's the master plan of Chris Eubank Jr., I can't knock it. I still think I would make him a favorite in a rematch against Conor Benn, but he'd have to go through hell to get it. Maybe he takes the path of lesser resistance and goes, it sounds crazy after Hamza's performance, but maybe that's the smarter move for him long term.
Long term it is, but look, you got to give, again, matchmaking mastermind in Chris Eubank Jr. being around this long and hasn't really beaten champions. I mean, he's won an IBO strap, he's defended that, he's fought, champions, but regional champions or European champions. But when it comes to international stars, the guys that are the best in the division, the Gennady Golovkins, or if you move up to the 168, you haven't been fighting those fighters. You're fighting the guys that are going to make the most amount of money, the most sense for you, and it's the more reward, least resistance. So yeah, I just think this is another way of Chris Eubank Jr. doing what he does best, and that's making all the right chess moves.
It's tough for Conor Benn because now he's got to go back to the drawing board. And right now, I don't see a super lucrative option for him at 154 or even 147. Maybe if Mario Barrios comes through this Pacquiao fight, that might make sense for end of the year if Barrios wants that type of fight. Hell, Pacquiao, if he can find a way to win, he might want that type of fight. But other than that, I don't see it. So he may have to regroup a little bit. The Shakur stuff, to me, that's years off. I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, look, at 154, you're looking at Boots Ennis now. You're looking at Virgil Ortiz. You're looking at a lot of fights that could be.
They're good fights. I just don't think
fights.
they're great fights. But the Eubank Jr. fight was the perfect amount of risk versus reward.
Right.
For Conor Benn. I don't know if those other fights meet that same criteria. All right, it is a doubleheader on DAZN on Saturday. You've got the Usyk Dubois 2 fight kicking it off over in the UK. So let's start there. It was just about 2 years ago we saw Usyk and Dubois in the ring. Some might say the ending was controversial with the alleged knockdown in the middle of the fight. It was not a knockdown. Nobody with two sets of eyes thought it was a knockdown. It was a below-the-belt punch that Usyk recovered from and found a way to go on and win by knockout. So 2 years have passed since then. Dane Dubois is on something of a run since then. 3 wins, all huge. You got Jarrell Miller, you got Filip Hrgović, and you got Anthony Joshua. Do you believe that this fight will look differently this time around?
Yes, because the momentum is on his side, and I'm going to continue tooting this horn. It was not a low blow. Dubois deserved a knockdown there. It was a beltline type shot, and Usyk knows that. Usyk has had...
Wait.
Oh, no, let's not get into it. I let you talk.
You're saying that... I didn't know you were going to go there. You're saying you thought it was a knockdown?
Absolutely.
Oh,
I've been saying this the entire time. It was a beltline shot, and not only that, I've talked to referees, Hall of Fame referees.
I know which one you talked to.
Yeah, but I'm not going to mention his name. It was more than one.
Okay.
But they agree with me. It was a belt line, hip line type shot. You don't forget it. It wasn't a low blow. But yes, I think this fight this time around, I think Dubois is going to have the confidence of knowing that he put down Usyk with a body shot, and he's going to go down and dig to the body because Usyk is soft down there, even from the amateurs when he fought Beterbiev, even when he fought as a pro. Anytime you get remotely close to that gut area, Usyk kind of overreacts. He doesn't like those body shots. You can bet Dubois with the momentum, with the fighters that he's just beaten and knocked out, undefeated fighters, former champions, and the way that he's annihilating them, he's going to bring that momentum, that confidence into this fight, which will be the biggest fight of his life. I don't think he wins, Chris Mannix, but I think he's going to be a body snatching. He's going to be body snatching, body hunting, and if he lands on one of those shots and actually gets the respect and you hurt Usyk, then anything can happen.
All right, we don't need to relitigate this, but
Wasn't a low blow.
You watched the way that Usyk went down. He didn't go down like Oscar De La Hoya went down when he got hit by that body shot from Bernard Hopkins, or we're here in Frisco, like Diego Pacheco put Maciek Sulecki down. He went down like you've gone down, like I've gone down when you got hit in an area that doesn't feel good to get hit in. That's how he went down that fight. You're never going to convince me.
You know how many times you've seen fighters, kind of hold their crotch area saying they got hit low, and then you see it in the review.
You think Usyk's a faker, though? Like, Usyk is one of the most serious fighters that out there. I don't think he was down, like...
I didn't say he was a faker. I just think that he doesn't like that area getting hit.
I agree with you.
And it was a reaction, and then he realized that he could soak it up because they gave him time, and he soaked up the time. That's it.
Yeah, he gave him time. He took the time. I don't think he was down because it was a body shot. I think he was down because he got hit below the belt. All that being said, I'm much more interested in this fight this time around than I was the last time. It has nothing to do with the shot that Danny Dubois did or did not land. It's because Dubois is a different guy. He's a different fighter. Like, it's not the technique necessarily of Dubois of the last couple of years has impressed me. It's the confidence that's grown him. And I give Don Charles a lot of credit. Like, you are a proponent of great trainers. Don Charles has come into Danny Dubois' life, and he has convinced him that he's a great fighter. Like, he has convinced him that he can battle through adversity. He did it to a degree against Jarrell Miller. He did it on a higher level against Filip Hrgovic. And then he goes out and just detonates Anthony Joshua, beats him from pillar to post. At that point, AJ was on a run too. So that wasn't like, scarred AJ. That was the real deal. At least we thought it was going in with Anthony Joshua. I'm very impressed with the connection between Don Charles and Danny Dubois. But, it's always a but, I think some of that aggressiveness that Dubois has shown in recent fights, Usyk can use that against him. Usyk is a better counterpuncher than Filip Hrgovic. Usyk has real heavyweight power. We've seen it. He's hurt real heavyweights. He's hurt Anthony Joshua. He has hurt Tyson Fury. He's hurt the very best of the best. I think if Dubois gets too overeager and does some of the things we saw against AJ, he was a little overeager at times. He got clipped against AJ right before he knocked him out. If he does that, I think we could see Usyk have an even more spectacular finish in this
Usyk
fight.
is dangerous when he's on the front foot, when he's flowing and he's using those southpaw angles. When he's on the front foot, when he's on the back foot, he's defensive. Hands up. He's trying to get angles. He's trying to pivot away from the size of these big monsters at heavyweight. We've seen flashes of that in the second fight with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua had a good game plan in that second fight against Usyk. He just couldn't keep it up. That's the thing about Usyk. He knows how to switch from plan B and plan C against these big fighters that he's been beating all his life. Dubois already tasted that speed, already tasted the footwork and the angles, and he already knows what the punch is going to be here. It's going to be counters to the body. Everything's going to be body shots. Fury did it for a little while against Usyk, but he didn't keep it up. That's what you got to do against Usyk. You got to forget about the head, forget that he even has a head, and you just concentrate on the torso, concentrate on the ribs, even if they're hitting biceps and forearms. That's what you're going to be zeroing in on, because not only is that going to keep the hands of Usyk in a defensive posture, but you're going to be throwing your shots, moving forwards as a bigger man, using all the ring, pushing that man back. I think that's going to be the difference in this fight. Dubois can use that size, and with that momentum and confidence that he's built from the last 3 fights, I expect big things.
So you're expecting big things. What are you predicting is going to happen?
Look, I predict Usyk in a very tight fight. I think in a very tight fight where Dubois has his moments to shine, has his moment to do something great, but Usyk pulls it out. I mean, but fighters can get old overnight as well. Usyk has a lot of wear and tear. He's in his late 30s, and Dubois is in his late 20s, and he has all the momentum in the world. So that can also happen. But these are all what ifs, Mannix. I don't like to concentrate on what ifs. I think Usyk pulls it off in a very tough fight.
I think it's a tough fight. a much tougher fight than the first time around. You're right that at some point we're going to see Usyk get old. The problem with that thinking is that he looked great against Tyson Fury. That was a more definitive win the second time around than it was the first. I think it's a decision this time, but I think it's a wide decision. I think it's like 8-4, 9-3, the kind of decisions that Usyk has picked up against Anthony Joshua in his 2 fights against him. All right, later on that night, where we will be right here for people watching on YouTube, at the Star in Frisco, Texas, Bam Rodriguez trying to become a 2-division unified champion when he takes on Phumelele Cafu. We have seen an incredible rise from Bam Rodriguez over the last few years, beating great former champions, beating guys like Sri Sakatso Rungvisai, beating Carlos Cuadras, beating Juan Francisco Estrada, beating his peers, beating Sonny Edwards. Now he gets another title holder in Phumelele Cafu. The question is this going to be a competitive fight? Because I look at some of the odds out there. They're not good for Cafu. If you're Cafu and you like to bet on yourself, this might be the fight that you bet on yourself because the odds makers have made him a huge underdog. Is that think the odds makers are onto something there?
I think it's a one-sided fight, but I don't think it's going to be an easy fight. I think it's going to be a frustrating fight for Bam. We've always seen Bam, find a way to track down movers or track down guys that are trying to use their jab, or guys like Guevara, who was trying to use those sneaky tactics as a former champion, smaller. I think Cafu's going to be tricky. He's going to be tricky because he has the youth. He has the momentum coming from Japan, winning that world championship. And he's one of these African fighters that wants to make a name, man. One of the things about these African fighters, South African, Ghana fighters, they have this heart that you can't teach that, man. You can't teach all that they learned over there. So I just think he brings that to the table, the confidence and the momentum. He's going to be tricky. But Bam is Bam Rodriguez for a reason. I think he figures out and finds a way late. But it's the first half of the fight. Yeah, you can bet Cafu's going to be confident.
So all the advantages favor Bam Rodriguez. He is significantly more accomplished. I think if you look at the two of them fight, his skill set is significantly better. But one thing about Cafu is that he is consistently underestimated, and more often than not, he defies those expectations. Like, he won some fights over in South Africa that he wasn't supposed to win. He went over to Japan and won a decision. Like, going over to Japan and winning a decision in a world title fight against a Japanese fighter is not an easy thing to do. And we've been around him a lot this week. This is not a guy that is coming here just to collect a paycheck. This is a guy coming in not just to beat Bam Rodriguez, but to knock Bam Rodriguez out. I know a lot of people say that. We're going to win by knockout. I've had a great camp. I believe it, every word coming out of Phumelele Cafu this week. And on top of that, the cherry on top, is that he's got the little extra motivation of the fact that we already have a Bam Rodriguez fight announced. Another Bam Rodriguez fight. Like in November, Turki Al-Sheikh says it's on. Bam Rodriguez against Fernando Puma Martinez. We talked to Cafu. He didn't miss that. That didn't go over his head. That pitch didn't go by him. He took that and put that into the old motivation bank, the old motivation tank. I think we're going to get the very best of him. I don't know if that's enough to beat a potentially generationally great fighter in Bam Rodriguez, but we are going to get the very best of Phumelele Cafu.
Phumelele's probably looking at Bam saying, you're ignoring Phumelele and looking at Puma Martinez already. I mean, what a slap in the face.
You tried to give Phumelele the Puma nickname. He wasn't really going for that.
I just did, yeah. But no, I like the fact that he has that chip on his shoulder because he carries himself like the champion that he is, and that is disrespectful. I mean, you're facing an unbeaten champion, and you're already looking past him to make it even.
At least that's how he's thinking.
Oh, another
right? Like,
fight.
I don't think Bam's looking
it's a
past
slap in the face if you're Cafu, but if you're Bam, it's just another day in the office because they have so much confidence in his team, and I could understand why they're planning other fights because there's a lot of money to be made. This guy's on a roll. Bam Rodriguez is knocking out all these kings, beating all these fighters, becoming great. He has a Hall of Fame resume, becoming great at 25, 26 years old. Incredible. So I can understand that ambition, where it comes from. It comes from somewhere special that me and you can't understand.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun fight. I don't think this fight ends by decision. My official pick is Bam by knockout. I think he eventually catches up to him. One thing about Cafu, to go kind of in the weeds, is that
if Cafu tries to win, I could see the knockout, but I just don't think. I think he's a back foot fighter and he's a more counter puncher than.
Is it strange
offense.
to think that, like, talking to him, it feels like he might have overstudied Bam. Like he's been very invested in this fight. He's been looking at this fight for a long time. His manager or trainer said to us early that after he won the world title in Japan, the first thing that Cafu said was, "I want Bam." And that was back in 2024. So he's been looking for this fight for some time. I think he knows what he wants to do or needs to do to win a fight like this, whether it's taking advantage of maybe some sloppy footwork with Bam or
sloppy footwork.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I've
kind of
never seen
his, the crossing feet and like that sort of thing. Like he was talking about some of that. So I think he knows what he has to do to win. But you tell me, like, is he overthinking it sometimes? Because like you can be thinking like, all right, when Bam does this, I'm going to do that. But while you're thinking that, Bam could be coming over the top with a left hook or coming underneath with a rear uppercut. Like I think you don't want to think too much against Bam.
Look, in boxing, you can over-prepare. You hear it all the time. You know, you overtrained and you lack the vigor. You lack that snap in your punch because you overtrained. You can over-prepare too because you think too much. You don't want to think in there too much. You want it to be instinctual. You want it to be something that you've been repetitive in the gym. You don't want to think. So I hear what you heard in the fighter meeting. I think Cafu was a little bit too preachy, a little bit too confident, and the trainer said some good things though. I do like the fact that he said that, you know, Bam Rodriguez, when he goes laterally, he crosses his feet. I've noticed that in Bam too, but his feet are so quick. I mean, his footwork is so brilliant that he gets away with it. And also he's a left-hander, so he's able to cut off the ring in that direction. But if Cafu and his team bring a game plan and a strategy and capitalize with their right hand in the middle of crossing feet, hey, we might have something.
I think because of that, the explosiveness, we're going to get a knockout. I think it's Bam, though, that comes up with that knockout. All right, last topic, Manny Pacquiao returning Saturday in Las Vegas. First of all, not a lot of buzz for this fight, unfortunately. I was in Las Vegas this week for the NBA Summer League, and I was talking to some people out there. Look, it'll still be a good crowd for Manny Pacquiao. His return still means something. But I was having a conversation with a podcast fan, shout out to Scott, who I ran into in the airport, who told me that he initially was going to stay in Vegas to watch the fight at one of the notable bars, but he was told by the bar that because the interest in the fight was so low, they were only going to show the UFC event. So it's not, it's not capturing the attention of the public in the ways that Manny Pacquiao fights used to. And look, that's to be expected to a degree, right? It's been 4 years since we saw Manny Pacquiao in the ring. It's been 6 years since we saw him win a fight. He's coming back against a recognized world champion, but Mario Barrios does not have the fan base that, someone like Boots Ennis might have and some other fighters on that level might have. So, there's a little bit of, I don't want to call it indifference, but there's not a ton of excitement for Manny's return. Now, the question I have for you, as someone that is almost the exact same age of Manny Pacquiao, who is a former champion like Manny Pacquiao, is this a good idea? Are we going to be sitting there in like the 7th or 8th round going,
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Just like we saw with Mike Tyson, because Manny Pacquiao made a career out of being explosive. His footwork was explosive. That's the reason he was able to close that distance so quick against bigger fighters, guys that are outweighed him, and they were longer, stronger, taller because of the quick feet, and he did it from that southpaw stance. It was all footwork. Everyone talks about Manny Pacquiao's calves. It was those calves that made him great. It was those calves that made him explosive. At 6 years old, 45 years old?
46.
At 46 years old, that is old for a fighter. 36 years old is old for a fighter. He's not going to have the legs. This is where the difference is going to come in this fight. Don't look at the videotapes of Manny Pacquiao shadow boxing, hitting the mitts. Just like you got fooled with Mike Tyson hitting the mitts for 10 seconds, that's how you're going to get fooled with Manny Pacquiao shadow boxing and looking great for a 10-second clip on social media. It's the footwork and the legs that are going to betray him because they betray every fighter. And he made a career jumping from 108 all the way to 154 with his feet. It was the explosiveness from angles, from that southpaw stance, but it all came from the footwork. He's not going to have that now. So unless Mario Barrios stands in front of him, right in front of him, I'm not talking about 6 feet away, right in front of him for 12 rounds, I don't see Manny Pacquiao winning this fight. I think he looks old. I think Mario Barrios gets out of the first half of the fight, realizes he's in with an old man, and probably even stops that old man late because I just don't see no path to victory for a 45, 46-year-old great like Manny Pacquiao against a young, strong champion like Barrios.
I usually disagree with you but I can't disagree with anything.
Yeah, because you're as old as Manny Pacquiao too. You know what it's like to get up out of bed with those old legs.
They're not as old as yours. Your wheels are worse than mine. But look, Pacquiao didn't look good against Jordanis Ugas in 2021. Why should anyone believe that 4 years later, after he looked fleshy in these exhibitions that he took part in, why he can get that old mojo back? And I've talked to people in Wildcard, and look, Manny badly wants to get that mojo back. He badly wants to rediscover the great fighter that he once was. You've seen some of the footage. He's in the hills. He's running up and down. He's trying to get that Rocky magic back. I don't think he can do it. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Mario Barrios is a world beater, but Mario Barrios is a good fighter, and he's got a great team behind him. Bob Santos, his trainer, one of the best trainers, a former trainer of the year, in my opinion, in years past. He's going to have a game plan for Manny Pacquiao. I think the game plan early is going to be box him on the outside, use your length, use your side. Barrios is huge compared to Manny Pacquiao. And I think he's going to have a lot of success. I think we're going to get to that 7th, 8th round, and it's going to be like 6-1, 7-1, or 6-2. And we're going to be wondering, like, does Freddie Roach need to let this continue? Do we need to continue to see some form of boxing elder abuse? I don't. I don't need to necessarily see it. So I'm cringing a little bit at what we might see from Manny Pacquiao on Saturday.
Every old legend dies hard, from Muhammad Ali, where he stayed too long. Sugar Ray Leonard stayed too long. Every great stays too long. Joe Louis. That's a rite of passage that certain greats have. Fighters that have been around so long, through generations and decades, they've influenced so many people that they are allowed to go out on their own terms. I hate it. A lot of people, boxing fans, hate it. But that nostalgia alone, the name Manny Pacquiao, whether it's only you and Scott at a bar waiting for this fight to come on, it's nostalgia. You want to see it. You want to see it. And it might not be popular. It might be big. But we're going to see at least the last hurrah of a great. And sometimes fans want to be a part of that too. Like, I saw the last fight of, Oscar De La Hoya. I saw the last fight of Roberto Duran. And now they're going to say, I saw the last fight of Manny Pacquiao.
Where did your legend die?
Caesar's Palace, roulette table. Yeah. That's exactly where it died. My hunger and my bank account.
I was going to say the Caesar's Palace buffet was probably where it ultimately died, but Caesar's Palace nonetheless. All right, well, thanks for watching the fighter, the writer, and the promoter, Eddie Hearn, who joined us a few minutes ago.